Hi everyone, welcome to my top 10 games of 2018, where I'm going to tell you about all the games that I really loved this year. And as with every time I've done this, I think this is the third time, it's really hard to narrow it down to 10. And, you know, the relative position of these, it could change in a few hours even. So this is just, as of right now, as of how I'm feeling right now, this is my favourite games. And I should mention up front that I have, you know, a specific set of tastes for board games, as you probably do. But I tend to play games with my girlfriend most of the time. So generally, I'm interested in the two-player experience. Sometimes solo, sometimes I play with a group of friends as well. But yeah, mainly it's the two-player stuff. And we don't really like any fighting or negative interaction in the games. So yeah, there's going to be no games with that in here either. Only the best games though. And yeah, we're going to get rid of subjectivity. People don't like that. So for 2018, this is just objectively the best games of 2018 because I've said it and I'm a person on the internet, so it's true. Okay, let's get started with caveats and things. So I want to mention games that I haven't quite gotten around to yet. We picked up so many at Essenspiel at the end of October. Even though it's been a couple of months since then, there's so many games to get through. And I'd say games that have a campaign or a longer session like Escape Tales The Awakening. We played the beginning of it at the UK Games Expo and really enjoyed it. Haven't had time to devote the day to the full experience yet. I really want to though, because it was a fantastic escape room in a box style game and very different from all of the others. Same with, you know, the Deckscapes. We've got a couple of those to get through. Holding On, The Troubled Life of Billy Kerr. I've been going on and on about that, and we are only early on. There is 10 games in the campaign of it. We're only on 3. No, we've done 3. So yeah, I want to get to the end of it really. And Gen 7 is another campaign game that we are early on in. That's, yeah, these games that need more and more plays to get a big sense of what the overall story and how well it does the campaign. You know, these things take time. And yeah, there's things like, there's things I was really excited about, like Cerebria and Feast for Odin expansion and Jewelasaur Island and Fuji, all of these things from Essen that, yeah, haven't quite been played yet. I know that I say every year that I'm going to do an update video and I forget every single time, but hopefully I'll do an update video this time and you can see all of the ones that I have. So, at the end of the caveats, I forgot what I was going to say there. At the end of the caveats, let's get on to the top 10. And we will start by cheating and having something that isn't in the top 10. But this is kind of a hidden gem I wanted to make sure that I mention. I say that it's hidden, maybe you all know about it. It's a game called Belratti, which is a kind of a party style game. It's for 3 to 7 players. Now, the theme of the game is some of the players will be managers, some of the players are painters, and we're trying to put an art exhibit together, but the master forger Belratti keeps trying to sneak his paintings into the museum. So how it works is the managers, and it's usually split around 50-50 of however many are playing the game, the managers will get given 2 cards that are the themes, and the pictures are all simple things. So it could be, you know, just a mouth or a UFO or a spaceman or some scissors, you know, just pictures like that. So there are 2 theme cards, and then we tell the painters how many cards we want. So between 2 and 7 cards. So we want 4 cards. And then the painters, from their hands of cards, they wonder how well they can fit these themes with their cards. They scrabble together some cards. We deal some extra cards just randomly from the deck that are Belratti's fakes. Then the managers, not knowing what the painters have played, have to decide which are the real ones and which themes they go to. If we are right, then they score as points for us. If Belratti managed to sneak his fakes in and we pick them as, you know, what our painters actually submitted, then Belratti scores points. He is a timer for the game. When he scores 6, the game ends, and however many points we've scored determines how well that we did. And yeah, I hope that it's, I haven't done a video for this. It's going to be a bit of a longer overview than that, really. But yeah, it's such a fantastic, yeah, as I said, we don't really play more than 2 that often, but there is, you know, a subset of party games that, you know, just really just constantly elicit a fantastic time. And, you know, the telestrations, the times up, the wits and wages, things like that. Belratti, after, you know, we've only had 2 sessions with it really, even though we played it multiple times every single time. It's definitely fixed its way in there. It's such an enjoyable time of trying to. It's not quite the level of Dixit and Mysterium to interpret how someone saw a picture, because the pictures have just got one thing going on in them rather than these abstract portrait things. But yeah, it's fantastic trying to work out how someone was thinking, how the painters were thinking, because you can only say as a painter, I've got one that fits well, two mediums, and then everything else is terrible. And sometimes you just have to play the terrible ones and hope. And sometimes, often actually, the painters will say, "Oh, I've got two good ones," and then when you actually come down to it, it's a really funny time trying to think, what were you thinking? Based on this theme. Well, the color's the same. That in this little corner, it's got the matching color there. It's such a fantastic game, and yeah, I don't know if it's going to get widespread distribution, because I hadn't heard of it. I happened to meet Aldi, the Board Game Geek founder, at Essen for the first time, and yeah, while we were talking briefly, he mentioned that as something he thought was really worth checking out, and I just bought it. Really, really glad that I did, though, because yeah, it's definitely becoming a staple for us, despite having only a couple of nights with it so far. But every single time, it's just been, whether we've won or lost, and we tend to lose, it's definitely let's try again and do better, even though we tend to do worse. But yeah, that's first honourable mention, not in the numbers, Belratti. But on with the normal top 10 now. So number 10 is Between Two Castles of Mad King Ludwig. There is a playthrough for this, and there's a playthrough for almost everything I'm going to mention from now on. I think only one hasn't. So this is a mashup game of Between Two Cities, which was from Stonernaier Games, where we are drafting tiles. Everyone sits around a table, and everyone is drafting tiles into cities that lie between you and the player next to you. And also the Castles of Mad King Ludwig, where we are individual builders trying to build a castle to best meet the Mad King's requirements. And so by merging these together, we are now building castles between every player. And rather than the more straightforward scoring of Between Two Cities, where the shops need to be in a line, the entertainment you want all the different types of, the parks you need to be orthogonally adjacent to score points, there is definitely more intricate, more varied, more difficult scoring for the castles, because yeah, it fits in more like the Castles of Mad King Ludwig game. There are cards that will get you bonus points based on certain criteria. Certain rooms want to be next to each other. Certain rooms want symbols in the corner of the rooms that surround it, but also want to be next to the bedroom wants to be next to living rooms and things. The certain rooms score if you've got all the different types of rooms. The utility rooms will score 2 points for every certain type that you've got in your castle, and the underground rooms tend to work they score the upstairs rooms of the column that they're in. It's just fantastic, because I love Between Two Cities, and Castles of Mad King Ludwig is a favourite for us. It's such a fantastic kind of tile laying. The big hook of that as well is that you set the price as the master builder every round. You set the price of all of the parts of the castle. That isn't part of Between Two Castles, but I think that it definitely stands completely apart from Between Two Cities, because it takes that original idea and adds so much on top of it, and it's still such a smooth-flowing, really, really enjoyable game. And yeah, the artwork in Between Two Castles is beautiful, and yeah, I just love the mix between the two. I would say that for people beginning, it's better to start off with Between Two Cities, because it's much more straightforward scoring. But I'd say for the two of us that are comfortable with the level of Between Two Cities and its expansion Capitals, which was fantastic, yeah, for me, I would say, given the choice, I would always play Between Two Castles from now on, because it's such a fantastic melding of two things that I really liked anyway. And yeah, it makes me think of, I really want to see more board game mashups and see what can result from these collaborations, because this is from Stonernaier Games and Bezier Games as well. So yeah, Between Two Castles of Mad King Ludwig, number 10. Number 9 is Teotihuacan from designer Daniele Tascini and from formerly SKN, now Board&Dice. This is a great big rondel game where our workers are dice, and we are moving them around the various stations around the board that can all be different every time. They can all be in different positions every time. But we are taking a rondel action, so you can move your worker 1 to 3 spaces forward and pick one of the action spots that are just in front of you. But by bunching up your workers in the same spaces, you will get more and more powerful actions in that action space by repeating the same thing and building it up, but it will cost more to go there. It costs cacao to get actions in these places based on how many workers are in there. Or, if there are a lot of workers in there, you can just go there to earn cacao and not take an action. It's a spiritual successor to Tzolk'in, although gameplay-wise, it's got more in common with Versailles. That was a really, really great NSKN game that takes the rondel and bunching up your workers idea. And I haven't played this one, but Praetor had the same idea of aging your workers. Your workers are dice in this, and when they take certain actions, you will get to increase their number. And when they reach 6, they ascend and can get you all sorts of great benefits. It's got a really nice system with the eclipse that tracks how long each round is, and that's accelerated just by the last player in turn order taking their turn advances the eclipse, and when workers ascend can advance it. And there is a scoring every time that happens. When it happens a few times, it's going to end the game, but yeah, it gives a dynamic length to the game as well, based on if everyone is just ascending like crazy and really trying to make that happen with other bonuses and things, yeah, it's gonna suddenly advance the scoring, and you might have to panic and rush to get what you were getting done. Yeah, that made more sense when it was in my head. But yeah, there are a load of temple tracks, which is something from Tzolk'in, where you can get various resources, and if you get high enough, you can get different scoring criteria for the end of the game. You are also building a lovely pyramid in the middle of these beautiful tiles that can get you all sorts of points and benefits and things, and it's also a way of ending the game as well if that pyramid gets finished. We've never ended the game that way, but I would really like to see it finished. And you can get decorations up the side of the temple for more points and things. Yeah, there are so many different ways to go about this. There are different powers that you can collect, either short-term one-offs from the little worship tiles, or bigger permanent, get extra resources when you do these things. Get cacao every time you pass, I was going to say pass go then, pass the palace. It's just, yeah, there are so many different things going on, so many different paths to go down, and also almost everything in the game is completely variable. All of the goals that you're getting, all of the rewards that you're getting, all of the positions of all of the stations on the board are all completely interchangeable, and that's another big plus as well. A beautiful medium euro, and yeah, we just really, really enjoyed it. And it's got a great solo mode as well, designed by David Turtzi. Need to say that right. I did, didn't I? Number 8 is Welcome To. This has kind of been, they've been around before, but this has kind of been an explosion year for roll and write games, where you're usually rolling dice and filling in a pad to achieve various actions and work out your score and stuff. Welcome To is kind of a subset of that, or maybe a sister genre to that, where it's, I think flip and fill is a Twitter term I've seen for it, which fits it quite nicely, because rather than dice, we have cards in this game. We are trying to build neighborhoods in this kind of 50s style Hill Valley, building a new neighborhood thing. And we have different streets. Every round we will draw 3 cards that will give you a house number and an ability that you can fill in if you take that house number. And yeah, it's a beautiful point salad where you can get points from having the most workers, from increasing parks on the various streets, by putting swimming pools in the right houses. And you are filling in these numbers, but all of the numbers in the street have to be in ascending order, of course. So as you are filling in these, you leave yourself trapped. You left too big a gap where you can't fill these numbers in, or to race to fill in a swimming pool, you put a really big number early on, and now you're really, really going to struggle. Your loads of numbers are useless to you now because you have skipped ahead too much. But there are different powers that allow you to compensate for that as well. You're not completely stuck. There are advanced rules that add roundabouts and things that you can split streets in different ways. You are racing for goals where you need different little subsets of the streets. You can use fences to split them up and splitting them up and filling them in different configurations can be a little race for these planning cards that we've got. It's just a really, really fantastic one. We have loved loads and loads of roll and writes over the last year or so. Like there were great ones like Nockmal and Diceland, and Ganshon Clever was a really, really fantastic one. But yeah, I think Welcome to, for us, definitely stands out. Just the theming of it, and just the sheer number of different powers and things and the different ways that you can go. It really, really works for us. And yeah, I think it definitely stands, it's a cut above the rest of them. That's Welcome to. Yeah. Number 7 is Now Boarding from Tim Fowers, and this is one of the only ones, I think there's one more that hasn't got a playthrough yet, but it will have, and yeah, there are reasons for that. Now Boarding is a real-time cooperative game where we are airlines trying to get passengers across America. And in the two-player game anyway, we can kind of see where the passengers are building up, see what we need to have, and every round you flip the passengers over as you start the timer, and you have 15 seconds to complete all of your actions, to pick up passengers, to move along the certain routes you're allowed to move along, and hopefully get them where they need to go. That kind of, real-time games are really, really great to me anyway. I love a lot of them. I think Kitchen Rush was one of my favorites from last year, but the crazy pressure of having such a short amount of time, even though there's only two of you, getting in the way of each other can really, really be a hindrance when you have such a short amount of time to do these things. And all of the planning you have is without the knowledge of where the new passengers want to go. You've got to kind of base it off who is there already, because passengers that are just waiting at airports are going to get more and more impatient. So you need to sort those out, but often they will be really inconvenient, out of your way destinations. And sometimes you just have to let some people get too annoyed and just quit out of waiting to be able to satisfy the most customers that you can. It's got an amazing look to it. It's really nice how you build up your plane with different cardboard pieces, and as you buy upgrades for it later on, it gets bigger and bigger and gets more logos on it as you're allowed to go down different paths. Yeah, we played this when it was on Kickstarter. We actually printed out the print and play, which is something I generally don't do. I don't really have time to do. But Tim Fowers makes such fantastic games. Paperback is a great word game deck builder. Burgle Bros is that on camera? It's a really, really fantastic cooperative game. Not real time, but in there we are trying to rob safes and avoid security guards, which makes really, really fantastic games. Walkstar is another great real-time co-op. That's a playthrough coming up in the future as well. But yeah, just for it fits into my kind of criteria anyway. I really love co-op games. I love real-time games as well. It depends really on how much you like the pressure of those games. I completely understand people that just don't want that kind of stress. But yeah, it's to me, it's a beautiful kind of stress. And having the rounds, the time that you're given is longer in a game with more players. I haven't played it at more than 2 or 3. I think we played the print and play at 2 and 3, and then the main game we've just played at 2 so far. But yeah, that insane pressure of having such a short amount of time to kind of get your vague planning that you've managed to do, get that done without getting in the way of each other, and then kind of process the new information that's just been flipped over as you see where these new passages need to go. It's just such, yeah, I don't know why it feels it feels so tense. And even though you only really need to just pick up passengers and take them to a destination on the map, it's just so much more than that. And yeah, I'm really looking forward to doing the playthrough. That one hasn't come up because it's a real-time one, and they are harder for me to film because I need Rachel to have the free time to do it. And yeah, she doesn't have as much time to film as I do, or really the inclination to be in as many videos. But yeah, we will get one to you eventually. Number 6 is Dawn of Peacemakers. This is another one that hasn't quite got a playthrough yet. I did do an overview video before Essen because I wanted to make sure something was up there, but a playthrough is coming, don't you worry. In this game, there is a war brewing. There's trouble brewing between the ocelots and the macaws. This is a land where there are different species of animals that are all have their own societies and things. And yeah, these two species have fallen out, and we can see the writing on the wall as these various characters that have different vested interests in keeping the peace. That none of us want this to happen, but we can kind of see the inevitable future of this happening. And so in this game, it's a scenario-based game, even though there are rules in it for you to be able to play a skirmish. If you want to just fight against each other, once you've kind of gotten used to the rules of the game, you can play it like that as well. But the main game is a campaign, scenario-based, cooperative game where we play as these individual characters that have hands of cards that allow us to do actions, and we are trying to basically get both sides to abandon their particular fight for that scenario. I can't go into too much because there are spoilers. There are loads of sealed decks in this, and boxes and envelopes with hidden information. There is a big scenario book with the story as it evolves to your particular playthrough, because based on your success, you will go down different paths, or different things will happen. Characters might not make it if you don't manage to help them through their particular situation. But how it works is that we have cards where we can kind of affect the morale of different sides. We can make by subterfuge, basically by whispering in people's ears and giving them wrong plans and things. We can kind of move them off to the side, or move them back some spaces, or even there's a food poisoning card where we can make someone take a damage and things like that. We are trying to keep a good balance, because once the actual warring sides get their turns, they will play based on a really nice card system where you flip a card over and look at the next one, and they give you kind of a speed at which the action will happen, and maybe a modification of that action, and then the action, moving, attacking, going into cover, things like that. And based on how those cards come out, one side is usually getting on a bit better than the other. So now we need to focus our attention on helping that side not get completely rolled over, because we want to get the morales of both of these armies to a point where they will surrender. When they're on 1 or 2, if they're both on 1 or 2, then we can win the scenario in the best possible way, because one side hasn't got an advantage over the other, and they've both basically just decided to call the whole thing off. That's our ideal. But of course, you can get to a point where one side, all of the troops are wiped out, or their morale is completely gone, so they lose that scenario, and that is how the different things will happen, the different end results in each scenario. And yeah, that's kind of just talking about the really, really early scenarios. We played up to, I think, scenario 7. And yeah, I'm not going to go into what gets revealed in there, but it has been, even just up to that point, it has been full of surprises and extra gameplay elements and new things to think about. I think this is such a good idea because, again, yeah, we love co-op games, but yeah, this concept of being a third party, basically, to a war game. A war game is happening between two AI players that, because it's a card deck, sometimes they're doing silly, crazy things. But yeah, sometimes one side can be really fighting really, really very well. So there is this war game happening, and we as players are kind of observing it and trying to make it end up in a draw. I can't think of anything really like this game. And yeah, it's a fantastic theme. It's from Sammy, who also designed and illustrated Dale of Merchants, which is a really, really great deck building game. This has got the same kind of, well, it's going to be up here, isn't it? Digitally. The same kind of beautiful illustration, and yeah, just a quirky, lovely animal theme, and just the theme where we as players are the peacemakers. We are trying to, through our various, sometimes sneaky ways, we are trying to stop this war from happening. And how well we manage to do that is based on the results of the individual scenarios. Just really, really, really fantastic. Dawn of Peacemakers. Number 5, and now we're back to games that have got playthroughs for them, is Carpe Diem from designer Stefan Feld. And I've mentioned many times that Rachel and I are huge fans of Stefan Feld, and he's made some of our favourite games, you know, the usual things that people love by him, you know, Castles of Burgundy, Trajan, Amerigo, Macau, just such a list of fantastic games. And yeah, we've enjoyed some of the more recent ones, but it tends to be those that we always go back to that are favorites for us. And this year, Carpe Diem is it's back in there. It's back with that feel of those games that we really love, whether it's just our perception or not. In this game, we have a star on the board, and every point of the star has a location with some tiles in it. On your turn, you have 2 places you can go based on this star. You go to one of those places, take a tile, place it in your kingdom, and you are trying to, you're making various different buildings or fields, and once you have completed one of the buildings or fields, you will get some kind of benefit. You will either get some resources from the fields, you will get a power from, depending on which building it is, or maybe you're building a residence and you want them to have loads of chimneys and things for the points. You are doing this until the tiles run out. The 2-player game has got a really nice little twist where all of the locations have 4 tiles in them. In the 2-player game, as soon as 2 of the tiles have gone, the other 2 get discarded. So, it kind of simulates other players taking away things, but it really affects your choices because you have to really panic that, okay, this thing's full, but if I take the tile I want here, knowing that there is another one I desperately need, if the other person just goes in there now to get something, even not to get the tile that I want, those tiles are all gone. So, what do I need right now? It's just a really fantastic puzzle to try and not just tile lay properly on your own board, because you have a frame that wants certain buildings to cross a line on your board, and you will score points if you have that particular building or field in the place that the frame wants you to have it in. There is a scoring at the end of every round, where at the beginning of the game we have made this configuration of scoring cards, and you need to put your scoring disc between 2 of them. And in that way, you can score multiple times each card. So if it's have 3 chimneys to get 2 points, okay then, well, I've built up 6 chimneys, so I'm going to get that reward twice. And you also get punished if you can't score one of the things that you put your disc next to. So you need to be aware. You can't just build up for a big finish. You need to be keeping up with at least some kind of scoring criteria and hope that you can get that one. If you aren't first in line for picking them, you need to kind of have your options open, because the other player might be after those particular scoring cards that you are. It's just so good. It's a really fantastic game. I don't know why I said even 2 players. I've only played it at 2 players. It's a really fantastic 2-player experience. As I mentioned, the way tiles disappear really tightens things up and adds to the panic and the deliberations in what you are ultimately going to do. There are production issues. I went into more in the full first impressions. There is going to be a second edition of it, though, that I understand is going to fix some of those things, so that might not even be relevant. But yeah, as for all of these things that I've done playthroughs for so far, if you want to know more about them, I played through the game in full, so you can see that. And I also did more in-depth first impressions for the videos when I did the playthroughs as well. But yeah, Carpe Diem, Stefan Feld, back to the top of his game, in our opinion. Number 4 is a big old cheat. I am putting Detective, a modern crime board game, and Chronicles of Crime in the same spot, because they cover very similar ground, and yeah, they do it in very different ways, but I am being a cheat and giving them the same spot. So both of these games are detective games, as you might imagine, in the vein of something like Sherlock Holmes Consulting Detective, but they are taking the main concept in quite different directions and doing quite new things with them. So there are videos for both on the channel already. I do need to do an update video for Chronicles of Crime to talk about our experience with the final thing, because the original video for that was for the Kickstarter. But yeah, there is a detective one where I go through an extra scenario that's not part of the main box and do a big first impressions video for it as well. But briefly, Chronicles of Crime is an app-based board game. You have to play it with a phone or a tablet, and you do everything basically by scanning things. You start in a location that has a QR code on it. To go to a different location, you scan its QR code and it will take you there. There are people at the various locations. You scan a person, you will enter a conversation with them, and then you can ask them about other people, evidence that you've found. You will go to crime scenes, and the game does have a VR option. It has special goggles that can slot onto your phone. So you do the VR thing, and the 3D and moving your phone around moves you around the crime scene. Or kind of for us, I think maybe because of our glasses, it doesn't work as well for us. It's not as nice to do. So you can just turn that off and you just swipe your finger to move around the crime scene and see it normally. But yeah, there's a really nice thing in that where one person's looking at the crime scene and saying, okay, there's a handbag, there's some files, there's a knife. And everyone else is scrabbling to get those particular cards so we can scan the QR codes and start gathering this evidence, start asking people about it. So the game comes with 3 different cases, where the first case is kind of the big one that's got 3 different scenarios of progressively harder and harder difficulty, and then there are 2 one-offs that are just a single scenario and so are shorter in that respect. I really love the concept and the system of Chronicles of Crime. It's going for a kind of easier to digest way of going through these stories, whereas something like Sherlock has paragraphs and paragraphs of detailed information, and it's trying to get you into that feel of being in a Sherlock Holmes novel, perhaps. Chronicles of Crime is trying to make it more conversational, and you find out the information by talking to people and trying to notice various things in the way that your interactions change with them over time, maybe after you have discovered certain things or ask them about certain things. Because it is supported by the app, it can be more dynamic in that way. It has a bit of a help function in that if you haven't found certain things, sometimes the chief will call you up and tell you to go back to a place, or maybe give you a piece of evidence that you forgot because you aren't going to get along without it. I would say that the story, I was really interested in the crime story that opens up in the 3 scenario case. We would have liked it to go on for a bit longer. But I think maybe that's just not what they're going for, and they're going for these shorter experiences that are more accessible to more gamers. That was kind of thing in the back of our minds, that we still really love the concept, but kind of wish there was more. Wish there was more to find out, more to investigate, and just more cases that lead to a longer, more involved thing. But still really love so much about it. Now, part of the cheat, Detective, in the same position. Detective is from Portal Games. Chronicles of Crime is from Lucky Duck Games. It's underneath here, though, isn't it? I've put it in writing, hopefully. Detective, a modern crime board game, is not app supported. It's used with a deck of cards, although you do need to go on a website, so it's website supported. There is kind of a false database, a website you will go to that acts as if it's the database to we are in the Antares team, where we are on a special investigative case to, I think it's on the back of the box, or it's very early on. It's not spoiling too much to say that we are a valuable watch has gone missing. Not ancient, it's not that old. A valuable watch has gone missing, and it would be a diplomatic disaster if people found out. So now we need to find out where it's gone, who's had it, and that leads us down a bigger and bigger rabbit hole into a much more involved and widespread story. It's done mainly through that website for searching for people, getting bits of evidence like fingerprints and DNA and things, and trying to match them up. It does that through the website as well, and answering the final questionnaire. Both games do that similar thing to Sherlock, where they ask you questions and give you a score based on how well you answered those questions. And Detective's got a bit extra because you get points for finding evidence and things as well. But you are doing the website and stuff, and you have a big deck of cards that you will read out the story at the beginning, and it's like, okay, these are the few leads that you have right now, so we can go and see the widow. This isn't real stuff, it's making stuff up. You can go and see the widow, and that's card 102, so we can go there and read through that. And that will give us maybe some evidence, or it will open us up to some more options. Maybe she told us about some places that we can go now. So it's you end up drawing this mind map that's really, really sprawling and huge. We were so into the game, we ended up getting a cork board that isn't on the screen, and I won't put it on the screen because it would be full of spoilers. It probably should be taken down by now. But although there is an expansion coming, so we'll use it for that. But yeah, you end up with this great big sprawling mind map of all these interconnected people, and yeah, just this great big story that's full of red herrings and things as well. But yeah, I loved how deep and expansive this thing is. There are 5 cases in the game of varying lengths. Some, I think, one we did in about 30-40 minutes, and then there were some that took a couple of hours. But yeah, they all involve this story in different ways. It keeps itself fresh throughout the game. It's some of the cases are very different to each other and are full of surprises and things. As I said in the first impressions at the time, I think that in trying to get you in the mood of being this kind of this worn out detective, or maybe show you the mundanity of waiting for test results, or waiting to see someone and having to drink coffee and how far you had to walk and stuff. There is far too much of flavor text that you do kind of end up, as much as we want to experience the game as intended, your brain kind of switches off that flavor text as you end up reading these cards, and you do end up skipping it. There is too much of it. But despite that main quibble, it was such a great story. We had such a fantastic time. We raced, as we did with Chronicles of Crime, we raced through the main story thing and completed it so quickly, which does mean that we are waiting longer for more content. But yeah, I just absolutely loved trying to fit all of the pieces together, and the satisfaction, this is true for both of them as well, the satisfaction of when they did come together is just absolutely beautiful. And I said this in both of the videos, I think, that we got that experience with Sherlock Holmes Consulting Detective. We've played 2 or 3 cases of it. We had an old version that had a ton of translation errors and just weird red herrings and things that, you know, if you're going to have a detective game, you need to be completely on point with your information. You can't suddenly have a really important suspect change their name halfway through the game, for example. And there are very, very minor things in detective that are probably fixed because of both of the games really being supported by an app or a website. You know, these things can be changed rather than it all being in print and being wrong. But yeah, I can't compare it completely, but I would say that, yeah, we had a much better time with both of these games. If I had to absolutely put one over the other, I would say that because of the depth and complexity of the story, or just the scope of it, we liked the story in Detective a bit more, even though I like the system and the idea of Chronicles of Crime, in that you are using the app and scanning the cards to basically do all of your interactions for you. That yeah, having the conversations with the various characters can lead you on some very different paths, and I really, really like how all of that works. And the added benefit is that Chronicles of Crime uses just portraits of characters and just vague locations like the police station, the West End, the town hall, things like that. And the people are just faces. They've got names in the app and everything like that. You will be treating them as people that you know, but the same cards, like the different cases in Chronicles of Crime, use all of the same stuff that's in the base game. You don't need a new pack of characters for the different case. It may be a bit confusing if you play them right after each other like we did, but you know, suddenly the young lady that is picture number 3 that was the victim in the first case is suddenly a professor or something like that in the second case, because you know, these components can be reused really, really nicely. So on the subject that I mentioned earlier of mashups, you know, if we can get a mashup of these two things, the system of Chronicles of Crime and the kind of story that was in Detective, even though, yeah, I don't want to put down the story that was in Chronicles of Crime, because it was a really good one as well and very surprising. But yeah, I want it longer and longer and longer. But yeah, I'm putting them, they are so close that I am putting them in the same number. Number 4, Detective and Chronicles of Crime. Number 3 is Forum Trajanum, again from Stefan Feld. And yeah, another Roman-themed game from Stefan Feld this year. Another one that, yeah, absolutely feels like it belongs with the top ones that we love from previous years. Yeah, this is just a fantastic one. You have a grid of tiles in your particular player board. Every round we will draw 2 street cards that will give us a row or a column we need to pick a tile from. We pick 2 tiles, we look at them, we get to keep one, and then we pass another one along. This is one I've only played 2 players, so you pass, you swap one of your tiles with the other ones, and then you get to look at the tiles, and you pick one to get some benefits. There will be some workers, or there will be some coins and things like that. You get to pick one to get the benefits from, and then you will build something. You will build either a grey building that will advance you along a track and get some points, or you will build a coloured building that will maybe help you for scoring at the end of the round, but will let you put your envoys, let you put your figures on the main central board that we are doing some, not really area control, but we are trying to get the biggest area of envoys together for some points every scoring, or we are trying to get them around these eagles that will score us points every scoring, or we are trying to be the person that finishes a particular coloured area because we'll get a special bonus there as well. It's definitely fits in with his point salad games because all of these different things interacting with each other, you can go very, very different ways. You can just concentrate on trying to score those cranes as much as you possibly can, or trying to get different grey buildings in a particular row that you have really beefed up with your citizens, so they're worth loads and loads of points. You can really try and get those envoys on the map as much as you possibly can, which will help you with scoring for cranes and with scoring your biggest area of envoys every scoring. There is a little bar at the top of your player board that you can advance that will give you more points in those scorings, so maybe you don't need to do as well to get those points. Yeah, so many different ways to go down there, and yeah, it's kind of splitting things up at this point. Things are so close. It's on another day maybe Carpe Diem is gonna swap around with this one, but yeah, for now anyway, I feel like maybe because Carpe Diem was shorter and a little bit lighter, but not really that much. Forum Trajanum is still quite a quick game. It definitely is a little bit more thinky, a little bit more complex. But yeah, just another beautiful point salad from Stefan Feld. It's going to depend on whether you like those, isn't it? Whether saying point salad excites you or repulses you. But yeah, I thought it was a really fantastic one, and yeah, two amazing ones in 1 year from Stefan Feld. So yeah, I can't wait to see what's coming. Hopefully, there's more on the horizon. But even if there isn't, we've had 2 fantastic ones this year that can keep us going. So yeah, 3, Forum Trajanum. Number 2 is Newton. This is a game where we are trying to travel the world and expand our horizons and do as much learning as we possibly can. This is another game of endless possibilities and point saladiness, where there is you can be traveling around the world and scoring points by visiting these places and picking up bonuses for being there first. There is a technology track where there are all these different paths that we can go down where we can get certain benefits and endgame scoring things. There's a work track you can go down to get money. All these different things. There is a learning action you can do to get more cards in your hand, because we start the game with these action cards that don't do very much. A couple might get you some bonuses, but you will be playing these cards to take the actions, and the power of the action you get to take is based on how many of the symbol of that action is on your board. Everyone starts with a different action on their board, so it's one more powerful. So say I do a map action, and I already had that on my board, so now I'm doing a map action with power 2, I get to move 2 spaces. If I then get another map card from the lessons action and play that again this round, I'm going to get to do a travel action with power 3. And now I get to move more and more and give me more options, or I get to race along the work track and get loads of money with one action that gives you more and more possibilities. You can fill up your library as well. That's a big source of points in the game. By getting certain combinations of books in bonuses from your cards, you will be able to put books in certain shelves of your library, and completing various rows and columns of your library will give you a lot of points in income at the end of each round. So you're playing cards from your hand into your spaces. At the end of the round, you need to take one of the cards that you played and lose it forever, because it goes underneath your board, but then acts as a symbol of that action type to boost future actions of that type when you play them in other rounds. So there is this kind of forced evolution of your hand, because if you never go and buy new cards, then you are just going to run out and not be able to take enough actions. So you need to be thinking of, I want to play the absolute best cards to get these actions, but if I only play the amazing cards that I have bought up so far, I'm going to lose one of those amazing cards at the end of this round. So maybe I want to play a slightly worse card so that that's going to be the one that I lose, but then I'm missing out on this amazing bonus that I've spent so many actions to build up. It's really, really fantastic how that and other things. There are other ways you can get more symbols for the actions, and you can get more income of money or points from various so many things that you can unlock on your player board. It's just a really, really great system. And yeah, it's one of those, like pretty much everything that was in this top 10. As soon as you're playing it for the first time, we're like, yes, I can't wait to play it. As we were getting into the decisions just in the first couple of rounds, like, yes, this is going to be a game for me. And I think it works beautifully well. Again, it's got so many different variable things. The location of things on the map is completely different every time. The end game scoring things that you can unlock, the bonuses that you will get as you travel along the various tracks, different every time. Yeah, it's a really, really fantastic one. And yeah, I was so excited when I played it. But yeah, there's a playthrough for that one as well, as there is for most of these. So you can see my further thoughts on Newton, or you can see me play through the game, which is surely the best way to know whether you'd be interested in it. But yeah, absolute fantastic game. Absolutely fantastic game, Newton. And so we come to number 1, and this is Underwater Cities from designer Vladimir Suchý, who designed some fantastic games. Shipyard, which I'm going to keep mentioning until I do a playthrough for it one day. Absolutely fantastic rondel game where we are building great big ships. There's Prodigal's Club, Last Will, Pulsar 2849. I'm forgetting something important, I'm sure. But yeah, a designer with an amazing track record of games that I have really, really loved in the past. Underwater Cities is something a bit different. It's a worker placement game where you have an action board where you will place one of your 3 tiles and you will get some actions. You will we have personal boards that are going to be our underwater cities. We can build domes that are the cities themselves. We can build farms and things to increase our production of food and money, because every few rounds there is going to be a production phase where all of this pays off. So there are various actions around the board that will let us do those things. Let us build new cities. Let us put these farms down and or get some more resources and things like that. The twist is, though, that on top of this standard worker placement stuff, we have hands of cards. We have 3 cards, and you have to play a card and pick an action. Now, the cards have their own various abilities, and they're kind of tiered in a nice way, where the green actions are the weakest actions on the board, but the cards are the most powerful. I might be getting that the opposite way around now. But yeah, they work like that. So say green is powerful on the cards, they're weak on the actions. Orange is kind of middle in between, and then the yellow ones have the opposite of what I've said so far. But you get what I mean, don't you? So you have this really interesting interplay, because you only get to take the special ability on the card if it matches the colour of the action that you took. So this suddenly changes everything, because rather than just finding the action that you want and having to think all the usual worker placement things of, oh no, what is my opponent doing? What do I need to do now, because this might not be available later on in the round. You have the added wrinkle of seeing all these almost always they are amazing powers. They are either permanent abilities, they are actions you can take with certain special places on the board, or they will let you do conversions of resources and things like that. So many beautiful things, and you want all of them. But to be able to get these special powers, you are often going to have to sacrifice the optimal thing that you want on the board to take something of a different color, because it's going to pay off for you so much in combination, because you might get the perfect action that you want, but you haven't got any cards of that color. So you're going to have to waste a card to really take that action. You're going to have to be really, really sure that that's going to be the most beneficial thing for you. But yeah, just that interplay between everything really, really makes this game stand out, because it's such a fantastic decision trying to balance the two, trying to balance out how much you want the action on the board versus how much you want the benefit of the card that you're going to play with it as well. And it's got a fantastic engine building feel, because you are starting from pretty much nothing on your board to building up loads and loads of cities, connecting to these citadels, are they called? That will give you some immediate benefits or some production benefits, and one is a big endgame scoring thing that can kind of give you a bit of a path to go down. There are government contracts that are an optional extra, but they give you goals to kind of race for at the beginning that I like, because it gives everybody a goal it gives everybody something to think about short term, which I think is always good, rather than just giving you complete freedom to do whatever you want. It can sometimes be hard to think of just what I'm going to do. So racing for these things is a really nice extra on there. So we have 4 rounds, and then we have a production, and then 3 rounds and another production, then 3 rounds and a final production and scoring. So you're more and more under pressure to get what you want done before this production happens, because that's when you're going to be earning all of your resources and points and things, and need to be paying for your cities, paying food to keep the people down there alive. You're building tunnels and things to connect these cities so that they will produce stuff, because it all needs to be part of your network. So the main not really negative. The main concern really is that Underwater Cities is a long game. It took us, what was our best time? Was it about 2 hours? Which, yeah, for a 2-player game, one of the things that I really love about 2-player gaming is how much faster the games end up, because you're only waiting for one person's turn and then it's yours again. Underwater Cities, just because of the sheer number of rounds, there's 10 rounds, and in every one of those rounds you're going to take 3 actions. So yeah, there's a lot in the game, and then there's the production phase and the scoring and things like that. But it's not. I don't want it to sound like too much of a negative, because as I said in the first impressions, hopefully, I wouldn't want to get rid of any of those rounds, because it feels just right. It still feels like you can't get everything that you want done by the time that you need to, by either production or by the end of the game. It feels like you are constrained in that way. And I feel that getting rid of any of those rounds, or having a fast forward or anything, would kind of deprive you of that feeling of building up this network of cities that you've managed to do, this engine that you have built from scratch. It feels like just the right amount of time, and it doesn't feel like a long game when you are in it. To me anyway, it's one of those that you look at the time after you finish and like, wow, okay, that was quite long. We're going to have to bear this in mind in future. So yeah, rather than a big complaint, it's something that we have to think about. If we want to play Underwater City again, know that we're going to have to block off a significant amount of time for it. But yeah, just in so many ways, it's such a fantastic game. As I said, so many different things that you want to go for, but you are going to have to narrow it down and really go for just a specific path, because yeah, you can just get lost in the sheer number of options that you've got. Because I've seen some concerns about you draw a card basically, because you're going to play a card and pick an action. You get to draw a card at the end of your turn. Often though, you can take actions, or you'll get benefits from cards and things like that. More and more as the game goes on, we found that you get to draw more and more cards, and so you have all of these options, and so you have to discard down to 3 cards. But then the trick that does also add to the length of the game, the trick is you don't have to discard down to 3 until the start of your next turn, whereas in most games, it's at the end of your turn, discard down to your hand limit. In this game, you can wait until the start of your next turn, so you can base your decision off what your opponents have done. So that can kind of make your turn take longer, because usually if you have to discard down at the end of your turn, everyone else can be doing their turns while you're doing that. But you can still do it at the start of your next turn, which is brilliant for being able to factor in what other people have done. Maybe a bit bad for particularly AP-prone slow players, because, yeah, it gives you more freedom. It gives you more variables to throw up in the air. But yeah, I don't want to sound like I'm down on any of these things, because I think as an experience, it's so good. As I said, I really liked a lot of Vladimir's games before, and yeah, just seeing another one is always great. I was really excited for Pulsar last year, and that didn't disappoint. But Underwater Cities, I think, is I don't have to decide if I like it more than Shipyard, but it is up there with my favourites of his, and absolutely my favourite game of this year, hands down. It's really fantastic, and I'd encourage you, if you don't know anything about it, to go and watch my playthrough or someone else's playthrough. Just watch videos about Underwater Cities, because I think it's absolutely worth checking out. But that's true for all of these games that I've mentioned, even the ones that I mentioned before I started doing the top 10. It's been a really fantastic year for games. I don't know if this is something other people have noticed. I know it's been brought up in a couple of podcasts and things, but I kind of get this sense, maybe it's just from a vocal minority on social media and stuff, I do get this sense that people talking about how disappointing an Essen it was this year, or how lean this year has been for good games, and blah 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 blah. And yeah, I kind of, it's partly down to my love for all of this and my excitement for how many good games are coming out. But I absolutely cannot see that at all. I think it's been an absolutely fantastic year for games, as it has been. This is the third time I've done a top 10, as it has been every single time. It's so hard to narrow this down to 10. There are so many great games I wanted to talk about. There's Keyflow, there is Futuropia that didn't quite make it. There's more stuff that's on here. Ganshon Clever, Vengeance was a fantastic game. There are so many things that I had to, you have to just be harsh to cut this out, even though I cheated a few times in this top 10. Yeah, there's so many games. The list I made before Essen was longer than ever of things that I'm excited about. And yeah, it doesn't always pay off. Sometimes you do play games that you thought were going to be amazing and end up either not being for you or just being a bit poor in general, naming no names. But yeah, I think overall it's been another fantastic year, and things, for my tastes anyway, maybe that's part of it, that people are looking for different kinds of games. But as someone that wants cooperative things, wants dry Euros, wants less dice rolling-y things, it's just fantastic for me. And I think that we are still going strong, and that you shouldn't be so doom and gloom about it, because things are really fantastic, board game-wise anyway, not for anything else. Anyway, that's little point over. Stop saying things were so bad when they were brilliant. Anyway, that is my top 10 anyway. I will be back soon. I'll be back in about a week's time to talk about my top 10 anticipated games for 2019. That list that's been totally made already, and I'm not going to have to panic and do it at the last minute. But yeah, I'll be back next week for that. And also on the 2nd of January, we will be back for the first playthrough of next year, which is going to be Wingspan from Stonemaier Games. So there you go. That's where you can see me. Have a great Christmas, everybody. Have a great tomorrow, whatever you're doing with it. Or if you're watching this not on Christmas Eve, then just have a great day. And thank you for being you. I'm supposed to walk off now. I really want this drink now. Let's just end it. Let's have the music playing while I'm having a drink. So how are you?